How do dogs really see the world? Huh? Are you feeling unusually hairy today? Maybe a bit shorter than usual? And what's that strange thing wagging behind you? Oh my dog! You've turned into a dog! On the downside, you're probably having a bit of trouble operating your keyboard with those clumsy paws, and maybe you're getting some unusual cravings for dog biscuits and kibble. On the upside though, you definitely don't have to go into work today, and nobody will mind if you spend your time off curled up asleep, chasing your own tail, or, here's a thought, watching some interesting YouTube videos to help you learn some more about your new species. After all, nobody ever said that a new dog can't learn new tricks. But while you settle down in a patch of sunlight and grab yourself a fresh water dish and a Kong toy filled with peanut butter, you might notice that you're not the only thing that's changed. The world around you looks very different as well. What's going on? Well, fortunately for you, the video that was playing moments before your mysterious and magical transformation happens to be on exactly that topic. In this video, we're going to be explaining how and why the world around you looks so different now that you're a dog. First, we'll be exploring the physical differences in your new canine eyes, and then we'll have a look at some of the psychological differences between how humans and dogs perceive the world. A dog's eye view. To start with, we're going to be investigating your new eyes. Here are the 8 ways that the world might look different. Number 1. Right under your nose. The first thing that you might notice about your new field of vision is that there's a weird, big, fuzzy blob right in the middle of it. What is it? It's your new nose, of course. The average dog's nose is quite a bit bigger than the average human's nose, and so it creates a significantly bigger problem when it comes to seeing things up close. If something is very near to your new snout, you might not even be able to see it at all. If once you've transformed back into a person again, you want to recreate this experience, you can get the same effect by clenching your hand into a fist and putting it in front of your small human nose. Number 2. Out of focus. If you had fairly good vision before your transformation, or if you were long-sighted, then you will have noticed that everything looks a lot blurrier than usual since you turned into a dog. If you were short-sighted in human form, however, then you might not have noticed any difference at all. All dogs are short-sighted by human standards. You've heard of 20/20 vision. Dogs have 20/75 vision. This means that a human, at least one with no eye problems, can see as clearly from 75 feet away from something as a dog can see from 20 feet away. One of the few weird exceptions to this rule is the Labrador Retriever. This breed has much better vision than most other dogs, closer to the human 20/20, which is why they're so popular as seeing eye dogs for the blind. Number 3. A shot in the dark. One of the main reasons why dogs struggle so much with focus is because they have larger pupils than humans, making it harder for them to focus the light as it enters their eyes. But these big bug eyes do have one major advantage. They allow your new eyes to take in much more light than your old human ones, making it easier for you to see in dim light. You also now have more light-sensitive cells, called rods, in your eyes than you used to, and a light-reflective layer at the back of your eye called the tapetum lucidum. This layer is also what makes your new eyes glow when a bright light shines on them. Thanks to all these adaptations, although you might find yourself struggling to see as well as you used to in the daylight, once darkness falls, you'll likely discover that you're surprisingly good at seeing your way around. Number 4. Off color. You might have heard that dogs can't see colors at all and live in a world that is entirely black and white, the way that everyone saw the world until about the 1950s, if old photographs are to be believed. You'll have realized by now that this isn't the case, but you've probably noticed that you can't see as many colors as you used to. Dogs are dichromatic, while humans are trichromatic. This means that dogs have 2 kinds of special cell called cones in their eyes that allow them to see different colors, while humans have 3 kinds. So, while you were a human, you could see the colors red, green, and blue. but also all the colors that can be made by mixing those three together. But as a dog, you can only see blue and yellow, making the world look a bit duller than it used to. This is because, quite simply, dogs don't need to see as many colors as humans do. Humans evolved as omnivores, meaning that we eat meat and plants, requiring us to be able to see enough colors to pick out, for example, red apples against green leaves. Dogs don't really like apples, so evolution didn't bother putting too much effort into allowing them to see them clearly. A side effect of dogs' color vision being mainly based around the colors blue and yellow is that dogs tend to be more attracted to toys that are those colors. Number 5. Outstanding in your field, yet out of your depth. You might notice that your field of vision is slightly wider than you remember. A positive side effect of that giant nose, aside from the heightened sense of smell, which we'll get to later, is that it puts your eyes much further apart, allowing you to see a full 250 degrees around you, as opposed to your old field of vision, which was just 180. Unfortunately, however, this wider range of vision comes at the cost of much shallower depth perception. Depth perception is helped by something called binocular vision, which isn't just your ability to get hold of and use a pair of binoculars. It's the way that the fields of vision in your individual eyes overlap. As a human, 140 degrees of your 180-degree vision overlapped, while as a dog only 30 to 60 degrees overlap, meaning that you have a much harder time judging distances. There's a reason why no dog has ever competed at Olympic-level javelin, despite there being nothing in the rules saying that they can't. Number 6. On the move. You might be feeling a bit disappointed with your new canine vision. It's not all that impressive. Sure, you can see in the dark, but apart from that, it's not much to write home about. Which is a good thing, because even if you could hold a pen in your paws, there's no way that you'd be able to see well enough to write anything. But never fear. There is one way in which your new vision is better than your old vision: tracking moving objects. Dogs are 10 to 20 times better at perceiving motion than humans are, due to a line of especially high-density visual cells spread across their retina. This is called the visual streak, and it's what enables dogs to keep a sharp focus on a running rabbit, or, more importantly, for a pet dog, a thrown ball. Number 7. The nose knows. You might think that we've now told you everything there is to know about the canine eye, and you'd be right, but that doesn't mean that we're done discussing how dogs see the world. Because unlike humans, dogs actually have another sensory organ that they depend on even more than their eyes. In your new canine form, you can now see with your nose. And we don't just mean in the sense that your nose is your main sensory organ, or in the way that blind humans can be said to see with their ears or hands. In 2022, researchers used an MRI machine to map the brains of dogs, looking at how they responded to certain stimuli. What they discovered was something that, as far as we know, is unique to this species. A connection between the occipital lobe, the part of the brain that processes sight, and the olfactory lobe, the part of the brain that processes smell. In basic terms, information that came from the dog's noses was being processed by the brain as smell and sight, suggesting that the two are much more interlinked for dogs than they are for other animals. If anyone's looking for a name for this new sense, by the way, we personally recommend Zmision. This is thought to be why dogs who have gone blind are often still able to engage in vision-centric activities, such as playing fetch. Number 8. Heat vision. One of the more interesting ways that you can see with your new nose is by utilitizing your heat vision. That's right, just like a snake or one of those fancy cameras you see on crime shows or in kids' science museums, dogs can see heat. They do this using special sensory cells on the end of their noses. A real dog would use this skill to help detect the warm bodies of hidden prey animals, but as a human in a dog's body, you might be more interested in using it to detect whether your coffee has gone cold yet. In the mind of a dog. You may be a human mind in a dog's body, but that doesn't mean that you can't be curious about the inner workings of a dog's mind. What would the world look like if you were getting the full canine experience, with a dog's thought processes as well as their vision? Here are 5 ways that the world might look different. Number 1. Chase your dreams. You've probably heard that in the rare situation where you encounter an aggressive dog, the one thing you must never do is run. Firstly, because dogs are much better at running than humans. Try it yourself. Now you've got twice as many legs. And secondly, because, like all predatory animals, dogs have an instinctive drive to chase anything that runs away. After all, that's why they've got that incredible sensitivity to movement that we were going on about earlier. Although nowadays, most dogs are lucky enough to be fed on a daily basis, their wild wolf ancestors would have had to chase after every meal they ever ate for the whole of their adult lives. These prey instincts still survive in our dogs today, especially ones that have been bred for hunting. For a dog, anything that moves away from them at speed, whether it's a human, an animal, or just a ball, is something that they instinctively need to chase. Number 2. Person versus pooch. Of all species of animal, the dog is by far the one that comes in the most different shapes. If you were an alien who just arrived on Earth, as opposed to a human who magically shapeshifted into a dog, which we think you'll agree is a much more believable scenario, and somebody showed you a Chihuahua, a Great Dane, and a Husky, there's no way that you'd guess that they were all the same species of animal. Related species, maybe, like how cats are related to cheetahs. But if somebody then told you that all these animals had the same name in human languages, then you'd probably just assume that we humans were lazy about naming things. Often the only way that you can tell that this strange animal you've just encountered is a dog is through context clues. It's on a leash, and it's not obviously another common domestic animal species. But evidence suggests that our pups can tell the difference. In a 2013 study, dogs were shown photos of various different animal species and were able to reliably pick out the dogs from the others, based purely on appearance. Later, in 2015, researchers used an MRI machine to determine that dogs can also distinguish between individual dogs, as in between Fred the Husky and Bill the Husky, and between individual humans. Given how many people can't tell similar-looking dogs apart, this implies that they might be smarter than us. Number 3. The mutt in the mirror. As countless hilarious viral YouTube videos and TikToks will attest, dogs aren't all that great at recognizing themselves in the mirror. When confronted with their own reflection, they're much more likely to assume that they're looking at some strange other dog, perhaps a canine demon who is protected by some kind of invisible force field. Despite what you might have heard, however, this isn't a sign that your dog isn't self-aware, or that they're secretly filled with self-loathing and fighting the mirror as a reflection of their own inner turmoil. Your dog isn't quite the main character in Taxi Driver. In 2022, a Hungarian study looked at how good dogs were at guessing whether they could fit through narrow spaces. This might seem a bit odd, but being able to accurately estimate your ability to fit through spaces shows that you are aware of the size and shape of your own body and how it interacts with the world around you, which is essentially a form of self-awareness. The researchers performed these tests on dogs, great apes, and human toddlers, and found that the 3 species showed roughly the same level of self-awareness. Number 4. Furry family. We can't tell exactly how our dogs see us, even with the benefit of shape-shifting powers, but there is evidence to suggest that they see us as some kind of family member. Wolves, the closest ancestors to our modern dogs, have complex social structures. They live in packs made up of their friends and relations, and although some wolves will wander off for a bit and become lone wolves, they'll usually end up just hooking up with some other pack for a change of scenery. To your dog, you and the other humans in your household are their pack. They view you as their family, and in particular, a 2013 study suggested that they might see their personal humans as parental figures. The secure base effect is an effect found in young children. Research consistently shows that very young children are more likely to explore and interact with their surroundings if they have a secure base in the form of an accompanying parent or guardian. The same is true for dogs. Researchers first experimented with dogs who were alone and dogs who were with a human companion. Then, to check that the dogs were specifically seeking reassurance from their personal dog parents, and not just from the presence of a human in general, they then tested dogs in the presence of strangers and in the presence of their dog parents. The results were conclusive. The dogs showed the same responses towards their owners as the human children showed towards their caregivers. Speaking of children, dogs can also tell the difference between adult humans and baby humans, and will often respond to babies who are related to their owners with the same care and attention that they would show the puppies of another pack member. You might say that you consider your pup to be a member of the family, but we bet you didn't realize that the feeling might be mutual. Number 5. How are you feeling? Probably a bit anxious given the circumstances. You haven't changed back yet after all, but you don't have the same facial muscles you had as a human, so you won't be able to make the freaked out facial expression that you probably want to make right now. But if you were a human right now, then your dog would be able to recognize what you were feeling, going purely by your face. A 2016 study found that dogs can distinguish accurately between human facial expressions, which is impressive, given that we've got over 10,000 of them at our disposal. Your pup can also recognize your emotions based on your body language, which they are a lot more sensitive to than humans are, once again, because they're a lot more sensitive to movement. Given that for most people, the human ability to distinguish between different emotional signals in dogs doesn't go much beyond if they're growling, they're angry. If they're wagging their tail, they're happy. This is another case where dogs actually do better than we do when it comes to perceptiveness. Phew! Just in time for the end of the video, you transformed back. Now that you've had a look at the world through the eyes of a dog, maybe you've gained some newfound empathy for your furry friends. To help make your own pup's life all the better, check out this video to learn 16 things that your dog will never forgive.